We shall fight capitalism with all our might. We should sit down and be very original, look at our own problems, and go for solutions, which must basically alter the way our people live. For me, that's the socialism we're fighting for.
Chris died for peace.
I think
How shall we convince people about peace?
Now, since 1994, the history curriculum at schools has been changed to reflect the historical narrative of all those who live in South Africa. But the question that we're asking you this morning is it enough? Are we actually reflecting properly in terms of, those individuals that actually contributed to this country's democratic dispensation? Are we learning enough about these individuals? And so we took this poll, right, on social media, and these are the various answers that we've got so far. 91% of you saying no and 9% saying yes, that it's actually reflective of the historical narrative of all those who live in South Africa. And perhaps this is where we start our conversation this morning here, joined in studio by the national spokesperson of the SACP, Alex Mashilo, knowing the fact that it has been 25 years since a struggle icon as well as a SACP leader, Chris Hani, passed in his home in 1993. So this morning we reflect on the life and legacy of this individual, and perhaps this is the time that we actually ask you, Alex, about this man. It's something that we're taking this conversation on social media about. Are we learning enough about those icons that shaped the current dispensation in South Africa? In your opinion, do you think that's enough? We're doing enough?
No, we are not doing enough at all. You arrive at home in the evening, you come from work, and your child asks you for help in their homeworks, and you go through their life orientation and history books, where they have been taught about communism and capitalism. The names that are mentioned there are not those of South Africans. We are told about Stalin in Russia. We are not told that actually the democracy that we have in South Africa was fought for by the communists as part of the Communist Party program. You are not being taught about Chris Hani, you are not being taught about Joe Slovo, you are not being taught about Moses Mabhida, you are not being taught about Moses Kotane, you are not being taught about the role that was played by the Communist Party as part of communism to fight for the dissolution and dismantling of the apartheid regime and establish democracy as part of communism. That role is suppressed. It is not being taught. Where you are being taught about Mandela, you are not being taught about his leadership of the African National Congress. You are not being taught about his association with the African National Congress. It is as if Nelson Mandela was an individual without an organization. Where you are being taught about our human rights, you are not being taught about how these human rights were achieved. The history of our struggle is actually still being suppressed after 1994.
So who's
in
supposed
our
to change
curriculum.
it though, Alex? There's the thing. Here's my thing is that we've got the ruling party, right? The ruling party, or the governing, let's say the governing party,
which
for
is the correct term
the purpose of this, the governing party in this country, who is ultimately supposed to be able to influence policies that will allow for such conversations to filter down. In other words, after 1994, since we've read this wonderful piece when I started my introduction, after 1994, we should have been making changes to the curriculum to ensure that young people know about Moses Kotane, that they know about Eshbimda, that they know about all those individuals that were quite crucial, including Chris Hani, to where South Africa is at current. So I'm going to look back and go, but hold on, wasn't it supposed to be the governing party? And as part of the alliance of the governing party, were you not supposed to put pressure and say, guys, if young people don't know about our stalwarts, if young people don't know about our icons, whose fault is it? Is it us as the citizens who are writing on social media, or is it you who are supposed to sit down on the table and go, why isn't this thing being done? I have to take it back to you guys.
I think we must not outsource our role. The reason why we brought down the apartheid regime is that we all stood up and said this is the direction.
Yeah.
Again, we must do like that. We must not outsource our role to those who are in government. We know that they are capable of doing wrong things. Some of them are capable of being corrupt, of looting our resources. Some of them are failing to just say, let our history be taught, okay? So we must stand up and say to our government leaders, please, we want the history of South Africa to be taught. We don't want a continuation. Look, let me say this. It is painful. We know that it was apartheid propaganda to talk rubbish about communism, to scare. It is painful that such things are still continuing in the books that are given and are used to teach our children about communism in our schools.
I want to take it to the listeners right now, and then we're going to come back and continue our conversation. First person calling in, Lebo, calling in from Soweto. Good morning to you, Lebo. How are you?
I'm fine, how are you?
I'm very well, thanks. What's your question or comment this morning?
Well, it's about Chris Hani. I'm just thinking that if Chris Hani was still alive, we would have our black empowerment, like monopoly, black police, all those things. That's what he was about. He was about black people. So I strongly believe that this guy was also maybe, let me just put it like this, maybe backstab. I mean, because, his death was just like that. And we know the guy who killed him. We don't know the motive. He doesn't speak. So I'm just saying that if we still had our own country, this country would have been our black, where it belongs, for the black people.
Hey, Lebo, you've led me into my next question, which I will ask in just a short moment. But I'm going to go to Aubrey first, who's calling in from Roodepoort. Aubrey, good morning to you. What's your question or your comment?
Good morning to you and your visitor. You know, Fred, I also got children in school that are asking for help. And then you start wondering if the Minister of Education in this country, at our days and age, has the minister actually read those books? You know, those books they just waffling at a tangent. They don't go into the nitty-gritty of communism, socialism, and so on. We are just told who was Mandela, and it's just a thing that doesn't make sense to us. You know, they don't go into those things the way Alex Mashilo is explaining it. And then congratulations. And we like to hear such a conversation on our TVs.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. I'm going to ask you, here's the thing. We know what the stories have been shared in the media regarding the passing of Comrade Chris Hani. But I'm going to ask you now, was this man betrayed by his own? Given the timing of his death, given the type of negotiations that were happening around the time of his death, we understand and we know for a fact that he was for economic emancipation. We can't have freedom without being economically emancipated by the people. Was this man, because every single sniper, every single killer has got a sender. Was this man betrayed by his own? What do you guys know as the SACP? Let's have an honest conversation 25 years later.
We don't want to make allegations. We don't want to cast aspersions.
But do you suspect? My question is, do you suspect that this man was betrayed even by his own because of his views? And you're smiling at me because do you suspect?
Look, we don't want to make allegations. We don't want to cast aspersion. We believe that Janusz Walus and Clive de Belois were not the only individuals involved in carrying out and planning the assassination of Chris Hani. For example, the gun that they used was coming from military armory. Who took it from military armory? And where is that person? How many hands did it go through before it reached Janusz Walus? Where are those people?
And how highly ranked are those people?
Oh, exactly.
How highly ranked are those people? Okay, we're going to leave that there. So when we're looking at, you know, the legacy and as a South African Communist Party, around, you know, some of the conversations that we've been having after, it almost appears as though this individual, this icon, was really ahead of his time in terms of what he was trying to do. So you were talking about the propaganda aspects of the media, you know, perpetuating the SACP as this radical communism, not wanting to be liberal and democratic, but in essence, the SACP, and look at Chris Hani himself, he believed in an inclusive South Africa. He just believed in an inclusive South Africa where all individuals were seen as equal.
Yes, let's not blame the media. I don't want to blame the media, and I'm not doing this because I'm in a medium studio, all right? Propaganda against communism in South Africa was a state policy. It was driven by the repressive machinery of the state. The Communist Party was banned in 1950. It was the official policy of the apartheid state to manufacture propaganda against communism, to arrest people who were not even communist and to send them to jail, to torture you, to even make you disappear. As we speak right now, there are families in this country who don't know what happened to their loved one because of the apartheid state propaganda machinery and repressive machinery that carried out the deeds that led to their disappearance. The story is not complete yet. So I wish that our curriculum will reflect that. There is a need to look at this school curriculum, to revamp, to change it, not to shy away from our history, not to shy away from telling people that this democracy that we have is a product of a communist struggle in this country.
So talk about Moses Kotane alongside talking about Napoleon. That's all that this is saying. Simon, good morning to you. You all comment. Ko mametse ntate.
E ne le selemo se leng hore ke ne ke latella dipolotiki haholo mme Chris Hani la bua ka sehloho jwale potso ke ipotsang yona ke hore batho bao ba ne ba hirilwe ke mang bakeng sa ho etsa ketso eno e sehloho hobane ile ya tsitsinya batho ba bangata ho e leng hore ne ke nahanne go ka nako eo go tlo ba le ntwa e kgolo mona Afrika Borwa.
It's what I'm I've asked you this question again, and you know, the beauty about conversations such as this is that we're not the only ones that are having these kinds of conversations. We've got the broader South African, you know, the masses are asking these kinds of questions, and perhaps it is a very crucial time in our democracy to be asking, because if we're going to be a maturing democracy, we need to be able to even address those painful aspects of our past and do so without fear nor favor.
We must do so without fear or favor. That's why, as the SACP, we have been calling for an official inquest into the assassination of Chris Hani. We want to know the truth. The reason why we want to know the truth is that we believe there has been no full disclosure of the truth.
And at different levels, we're going to leave our conversation there this morning.